And we are live. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It is Friday, September 2nd. I can't believe we're already in September, 2022. This is the iMore Show, and today we are talking about a ton of interesting things. A bunch of new rumors kind of surrounding the iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro, which we all know the big event is coming up just next week, so we all expect that. But we will be diving deep into our Apple Watch Series 8 and Apple Watch Pro rumors that we have for you. So stick around for that. Let me introduce the cast. I'm Luke. I'm here, as always. I am your host, and I'm joined, as always, by iMore contributor Karen Freeman. How you doing, Karen?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Not too bad. And we're excited to finally have back Christine Romero-Chan, senior editor over at iMore. How you doing, Christine?
I'm good.
Thank you for joining us. We have lots to talk about in terms of ads with iPhone, but we'll get to that in just a second. Let's start with probably the biggest news/rumor of the week is that the iPhone 14 Pro might have a pill and a hole punch, but then it might not. So there's an interesting rumor that came about saying that when the iPhone 14 Pro is on, it will actually black out that little part that's in between the hole punch and the pill shape to make it just one big pill when it's actually on and in use, which seems odd, but also I guess makes sense. It is a uniform shape. I suppose there's a reason for it, but at the same time, it's like, why even bother? Like, that seems like a weird software thing to put in for like a couple pixels that no one's going to use anyways.
Well, I think it makes sense if we have those the privacy sensors in there, the two little dots that will tell us if the camera or the video and or the audio is recording at that moment.
Yeah, and that's the other part of this rumor, Karen. You're right, is that there will be like a microphone and a camera privacy indicator so that you'll know when either one of those on, which is good for multiple reasons. One, if for some reason you left your camera on or you were recording something you didn't know, or two, one of your apps is secretly running in the background and maybe you don't know and is actually secretly recording everything you do. Not even necessarily for nefarious reasons, but I've had that happen, with apps before where I realize I've been in like a voice call or something like that, and then I switch it out and I kind of forget that it's on, and like it's not technically going anywhere, but it does mean that my voice is being sort of recorded. So it's a good. I think that's a good addition. Obviously, things that help our privacy is always nice. I think if you go on a Mac, for example, I'm on my Mac right now, when the camera's on, there's a little green light beside it, so
Yeah.
it just kind of makes sense. Especially, we all have these devices around, and there's a lot of worry, I think, in general about just like people being recorded, especially in the modern day age of social media. It's easy to pull out your phone and record a video, and like you can do it pretty stealthily if you're trying to. I don't do that. Don't go around just stealthily recording people. It's weird and creepy. But I mean, at the same time, we have these devices for a reason, to record our lives, to take pictures, to communicate and connect with people. But yeah, I'm curious what this would look like. If it'll just be like a little dot, if it'll, will it be like a blinking light? Apparently it'll be green. That's what they say. That's what they said. There'll be a green camera indicator and an orange microphone indicator. And at the same time, it'll be both if they're both in use.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. And as far as like the pixels in between the pill and the dot, obviously there's no purpose to those. Those would just be, that's just whatever. I mean, who cares really? Just black out that whole part. Use it wisely. I'm cool with that.
What do you think, Christine? Are you happy to hear that there might be privacy indicators?
Privacy. Well, the iPhone's always had the privacy indicator, at least for the microphone. It's like kind of hidden, but this new design would make it like easier for more people to see it. But I do like the more uniform, like single pill shape. It's less distracting, in my opinion, than having both a pill and a hole at the top. So, and I mean, the pixels in between those would be useless anyway. So I guess it's a good idea to just make it appear black and just as one larger pill shape in the end.
I agree. The pill and the dot just doesn't make any sense to me.
See, and I'm
Yeah.
still on I'm still on the side of like I think it makes it unique, and like just like the notch made the iPhone unique, even though
Yeah, but
lots
I
of people-
hate the notch. So
I mean, I get that. Lots of people hate the notch, but I've always this is just me and the way I think of things, but I liked having the like instant recognition. If you see some, even out of the corner of your eye, you see somebody on a phone and you kind of see that little cutout, you know it's an iPhone kind of thing. And I think there's power in that visual branding of the device. And I feel like, you know, having that little exclamation point, which I like to call it, cutout, I think was a nice way to kind of like get rid of the notch, but also like still keep a bit of uniqueness. But at the same
I
time,
just disagree. It's asymmetrical, first of all, which bugs me. And
yeah,
and secondly, I'm not in favor of uniqueness just for the sake of uniqueness. Like if you're going to be unique, like you should be better in some way, right? Like a better unique camera, or, you know, something that actually adds to the functionality, not just different for the sake of being different.
That's fair. And I mean, much like Phone Pup says, I'll put his comment up on the screen here. It's all the same to me unless or essentially until we get it under the screen, which is true because you're not doing anything with those pixels, that very top bar. I mean, we know through the iOS 16 beta that there will be some battery percentage displaying again, but that's also coming to some of the older phones as well. So yeah, it doesn't really matter until one day when they do manage to get all that under the screen. Who knows if they ever will? They probably will at some point. Who knows if it's coming soon? Have no idea. But it won't be on the iPhone 14 if everything we already know about it is to be believed. Or everything we already think we know about it, I should say. Right. They are just rumors after all. Yeah, and then the other part of the iPhone 14 Pro as well is, Christine, you actually wrote this up the other day, is that there was a package, a wild package of the iPhone 14 Pro that was seen out there.
Or a package in the wild.
Yeah. What do we?
I don't know, the package is so wild itself.
Yeah. What do we think of this rumor, Christine? What exactly are we looking at here?
let me pull up the tweet again. Here's a little slow.
Yeah, the packaging is very purple, which I like.
Yeah.
To see.
Well, on the package, like you just see the one long pill shape cut out on the display. So that's also if like as if the screen is on. So I mean, again, it looks like that's what it's gonna be. So.
Yeah, I think spotting that package is what changed the rumors from the pill and dot to the just a big pill. Sort of the lead rumor.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I'm curious once again, kind of like that that leak we saw, I guess it was last week, of the purple color that kind of was in the wild. Somebody apparently had a production iPhone, I guess. We weren't sure exactly what it was. We kind of wondered its validity, and still kind of do, but something like this is interesting. As Karen mentioned, you can see it on iMore, obviously, but as Karen mentioned, there's a lot of purple on the package, which we've been pointing. Everything seems to be pointing towards purple being the other Pro color that you get this time around. Sort of like a new Pro iPhone 14 Pro color. Karen really wants it. She likes purple. Yeah, so I'm interested. And as Christine said, the pill on the shape of the cutout is just one uniform thing on this rumored package that we kind of saw leak. So who knows exactly how credible this is, but it's interesting. As we get closer to these things, this is the kind of stuff that we'll start seeing. In fact, it's potential over the weekend there'll be something huge, like maybe somebody will actually like get one or something, but chances are we've probably heard most of what we're going to hear about the iPhone 14 at this point. I don't even know what else would be even left to leak unless there is something big that Apple is hiding, which would be exciting. If we get to the big day and we don't always know everything, it's exciting. But we also like to talk about rumors, so it's a bit of a catch-22. Moving on, talking about MacBook Pro, Apple's next MacBook Pro and iPad Pro are going into production, from what we can understand. However, there might be a bit of an upgrade that is missing. So everyone was kind of expecting, there was lots of rumors that 3 nanometer chips were going to be included, but it seems like the production is just not there, or not up to snuff from what we can tell. This is coming from analyst Min-Chi Kuo, who has a lot of sources inside kind of Apple's production line. Does this really affect a lot of people? Probably not. It just kind of means that something we were potentially expecting to see and might break its way into more upgrades kind of later down the line is not quite happening at this point.
I mean, I think for most people, it's going to be the average person is not even going to make the tiniest bit of difference. That 3nm process, all it is, it's just a name given to a particular production mode. So, and it will offer 70% logic density gains, 15% speed improvement at the same power, and up to 30% power reduction at the same speed compared to the current 5nm, like Apple's current silicon lineup. So that's really all we're talking about here. So, obviously for power users, this is going to be a disappointment not to get those improvements. But for most people, I don't think most people will care.
Yeah, and I mean, even then, as we said, like they say that it's about 15. If you want to just go, we'll just use speed and power. They say it's about 15% of a speed improvement and 30% of power reduction, which, if you think about it, like 30% is quite a bit. Like power reduction is probably the biggest part of this, but like the 15% speed improvement, like how much are you going to notice that unless you're really, really, really pushing your device to its absolute limits?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So we'll have to see what happens. I mean, obviously we know this is going to come eventually. It seemed like it was going to be in place for this time, but it seems like some sort of production issue has held it up, or maybe they just weren't happy with the chips. We never know, but we know that Apple won't put out a product with something in it that, might not be good. They'll always kind of wait. So yeah. Okay, let's talk about Twitter real quick, because I'm pretty happy about this, sort of. So the Twitter apocalypse is finally upon us, as people have been tweeting out. There are edited tweets on Twitter right now. You have to pay for them. They're part of Twitter Blue. But they are slowly testing and probably rolling out eventually, but they haven't officially said they're rolling it out. They just said that they're going to be testing an edit button for tweets. I know there's a lot of interesting dialogue over this. I am personally, I'll say right now, I'm personally a fan of edited tweets. I think it'll be, I think it's good. I like the ability to be able to notice I said something like wrong, as in like typos, not wrong as in like morally wrong. And I know that's part of the thing that we'll get into in a second. But like, I like the ability to correct my tweets. If you follow me on Twitter, which you can, you'll notice that I have a lot of typos in my tweets, and they usually end up just staying up because I don't want to delete them again and post them and do all that rigmarole, especially if I'm tagging someone or whatever. But every now and then it's like, I want to use this and to say something, somewhat what I consider important, or I'm talking about something at work that I'm proud of, maybe a piece that I worked on or whatever, and then I tweet it out, and then there's a silly typo in it. It's like just let me take that back. Just let me take that back. That's all I want.
We've all had those moments, but I think it's important to note that a Twitter blog post said that the edit tweet feature will only allow users to edit tweets a few times in the 30 minutes following their publication. So that's important. And it's also important to note that the edited tweets will appear with an icon, timestamp, and label. So readers will understand the message has been modified, and tapping on the label will take readers to the tweet's edit history, including the past versions. And I think those steps are extremely important, because otherwise somebody could take a tweet that has gone viral, and people have liked, people have retweeted, and then change it. And that could lead to some, unsavory / immoral situations. But I think the fact that they're limiting the time and keeping a detailed log of all the changes is a good thing.
Yeah, Christine, what's your initial opinion on editable tweets?
It's something I've been wanting for like a very long time, because I always make typos and I don't notice them until like after the fact, and I'm like, oh, that's so embarrassing. But I'm like, I don't want to delete the tweet and send it out again. So I'm looking forward to editable tweets very much.
Are you going to pay for Twitter Blue so that you can?
Is it only going to be for Twitter Blue users?
That's what it sounds like right now. I guess they haven't completely rolled it out, and I guess they could always change it. But as of right now, it is only going to be Twitter Blue subscribers that are at least testing the feature out. And we had heard before that if it was going to be rolled out, it would likely be behind Twitter Blue. I'll say this is the one thing that can make me subscribe to Twitter Blue because I want it that badly that I think it will actually make me pull the trigger. Once it's officially out, once it's like officially a feature and it's to everybody, I think I probably will bite the bullet. And
no, not me. I'm not going to pay so that
Karen, you're verified though.
Yeah, now I'm just
Karen has, if you don't know, Karen has the awesome flex of being verified on Twitter, which is pretty much impossible to do these days. I'm
verified on Twitter.
Are you, Christine? Well,
Christine and I both got verified when we worked for another site, right? Didn't you get verified before? Yeah, it was when we worked at another site, and it was I think it was a little bit easier to get verified a few years ago than it is now.
Yeah, hilariously enough, I'd never tried until very recently. I guess I can try again because you're only allowed to try like once a month. But like near the beginning of August, I gave it a try just for the heck of it. I was like, I'm sure I'll get denied.
Yeah, because the other site that we worked for was much smaller than iMore, so it's not. That's not why. I think they were verifying people that worked for Apple News sites more.
Yeah. But either way, so I'm the odd man out who's not verified, but I will be probably getting Twitter Blue when this rolls out. I think, Karen, you're right. The change log is good. I've always erred on the side that when you can edit a Facebook post, and a Facebook post doesn't have an edit log. It'll tell you when it's edited, but it won't show you what the old thing was and stuff. And it's like, I'm sympathetic, and I understand that there are people who can abuse these sort of features, but I also understand that you can't make decisions based on the bad apples that are gonna maybe stir some stuff up. But I think Twitter is going about it as best as probably one of the better ways we've seen it, because not only I thought 30 minutes was a bit long when I first heard it, but then hearing that you only can edit it a few times, so you can't just keep changing it. And then it will have a whole, you can, if you're interested in what the edits were, you can actually go check the entire log, see what the original tweet was, see what they did.
It's almost overkill, right? Like you said, Facebook and Instagram have no such thing. You can just edit whatever, whenever. But I think I feel like Twitter's trying really hard to be responsible here. And I appreciate that they're doing that.
Yeah, which is good to see. I mean, I know, there's been an increasing discourse, especially, we know that in iOS 16, you're going to be able to edit some messages and undo some emails and things like that. So there's been a lot of discourse lately around, social media or messaging platforms in general that allow you to do this. What's the best way to go about it? And I think Twitter's done pretty good here. We'll have to see, exactly when it rolls out kind of to everyone.
And maybe others will follow.
Yeah, right. Like maybe this will cause some of the other, maybe Facebook will eventually adopt some of these because people are going to be like, hey, we see that it can be done. Show us that it can be done so that we can feel better about, our choices online. And, if we do retweet or share or whatever something, then we have the ability to be like, hey, this was changed. I don't support what it says now or whatever the situation may be. So I think it'll be good. We'll wait to see when it first gets out. And then we'll see if I actually get Twitter Blue. I think I probably will. I really want to be able to edit my tweets. I hate my typos. I really do. And I have a lot of them because I type really fast on my phone. It's just my
check them before you hit.
Here's the thing, Karen. Humans aren't good at editing themselves. I do check my tweets before I.
I know. I always catch far more typos after the fact than I catch in the moment.
Yeah,
that's true. It is human nature.
It's why we have editors on our site, because our brains can't catch, because we know what we're trying to say. So when you're reading your own article, which don't get me wrong, we all proofread our own articles, but it's good to have editors because you need that kind of like sober second thought, that for sure, the fresh pair of eyes. So, let us know what you all think about edible tweets, because I'm interested to know what other people think. It's a good discourse going on right now about this.
Yeah, and Annie brings up a good point in the comments that a lot of people use their voices to dictate their tweets. So
yes,
that's a really important feature to have.
I don't say I use it for Twitter for much, but like obviously people do, but I use voice to text for like texting people constantly. Like all the time. If I'm in the car, I'll get Siri to send messages. If I'm cooking something and my hands are busy, I'll get Siri. Like I use it all the time. If I don't know how to spell a word and I don't feel like looking it up to spell the word, I'll use Siri to spell the word for me. I use that all the time, and there's some people who need to use that. That's the way that they communicate. So this would just like give an extra layer of like of protection or an extra feature to use to kind of make that process a little more smooth, which I think would be good. All right, another big thing that came out this week in a report from Bloomberg, and then Christine had some very interesting and good thoughts about this, was that Apple is breaking into the ad business in a bit of a bigger way than we've seen before. So according to Mark Gurman at Bloomberg, Apple is set to expand ads to new areas of your iPhone and iPad as its next big revenue driver, which I think as soon as we all hear, ads, I think everybody clenches and goes, no, why? Shouldn't we be getting rid of these? And I think it's important to note, too, that it's not that Apple hasn't had ads already. They have it in some places. The App Store has ads. They do, those like promoted apps that you get if you search something, and, you might search for a specific thing, but an ad pops up, like a company is paying to put their app in the that spot so that hopefully it gets more downloads or it's more visible.
Apple News has tons of ads.
Apple News,
even if you pay for it.
Even if you pay for it.
And to add on to this too, other companies are finally adding ads to the service after a long time. Netflix is looking at adding a lower subscription fee, but an ad-supported tier. Hulu already has one and has for a long time. Disney's looking into doing it as well. It seems that as much as we thought the internet and streaming would get rid of ads altogether, it seems like now they're all coming for us. Christine, you don't like hearing this news, and you wrote a very good editorial, which you all should go read, and you think that it ruins the premium, to use your words, Apple experience. Why do you think that is? What are you worried about when you hear about Apple getting into the ad business?
Well, like it's a fact that like people who buy Apple products are paying the Apple tax for a premium experience and a product. So I really just don't like the fact that Apple is adding more ads into things. Like even Apple News, like I pay for the Apple One premium subscription, even though I don't make use of all the services all the time. But like I'm paying for Apple News, and like why am I getting ads in a service that I'm paying for? Like, and like all the streaming services, like I will pay for the more expensive tier because I don't want ads. I hate ads so much. It's like, keep your ads out of my subscriptions.
Yeah, it's hard. I go back and forth. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I don't love ads, except for maybe Super Bowl ads, but that's a different story. I don't really love ads like on my devices as much as I can. I'm trying to use them for work. I'm trying to use them for, to live my life. I'm not trying to like consume something. I think when consuming media, I kind of have always said that they're like a necessary evil. I understand how, the business model and how it works. Obviously I like that I, can subscribe to something like Netflix or Disney Plus or Hulu, and I can, not have ads. Obviously they're adding, as we said, they're going to add in tiers that are lower cost, but have ads in them. I just won't get those tiers. Like, that's not what I'm here for. But when it's on, what I'm worried about the most is like, we're hearing that this, this move into apps is mostly going to be for Apple, is mostly going to be in like some of their stock apps more are going to have some more ads, and like, hopefully ads. I'm hoping that it doesn't go the way that, like Google and Samsung have gone. Samsung specifically, like my friend has a Samsung TV, and the entire thing, when you open it up on the home screen, it's just like plastered in ads. And it's like, that's a TV. Like, you bought the TV, and I guess you're using their OS on the TV. You're using their operating system, but it's weird that you can't buy a TV these days without ads. My Roku TV has ads as well. And I think those are the ones that bother me the most. Like, if I open up my phone and I open up my home screen and my apps are all moved around because of an ad, or, there's like a scrolling ad on the bottom or something, like that would really tick me off, I think. Because I agree with you, Christine, that like one of the reasons why we all, people who love Apple like us gravitate towards the company is because that they historically haven't done stuff like this. And the little bits of stuff that they have implemented so far, like we said, with App Store ads and things like that, they're so minute and smaller in scope that like they aren't as problematic, at least in my eyes. But I think getting into this is also making some of Apple's like practices as of recently sort of like in question. Like, I'm trying to remember if it was iOS 14 or iOS 15, but one of the recent iOS editions, every app had to ask you to track you, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I think that was iOS 14.
Yeah, 14. It might have even been 13. I can't remember. They all bleed into one eventually when you cover this stuff on a day in and day out basis. But some of that stuff kind of looks a bit, Apple heralded that and lauded itself for that, and people did too. We gave praise for Apple for being like, hey, this is a great way to like cut down on ad tracking from third-party apps and stuff. But now it's like, well, did you cut down ad tracking from third-party apps because you just wanted a piece of the pie? And that's kind of what it feels like now. And I guess maybe it's not that we didn't know this was a possibility, but I think we've all hoped this was not the way that Apple was going to go. However, there's an interesting antithesis to this that I can't remember exactly. I apologize. I can't remember exactly who said this. It was somebody on Twitter, somebody in the Apple tech world. But they were kind of talking about how, like, think about how many iPhones are out in the world right now, right? We have over 1 billion iPhones in the world. How many more iPhones can Apple sell? Like, people are going to upgrade and there'll be new people getting them. But like, they are sort of reaching a point where like, they are
saturation point,
reading a device saturation point. So what's the best way for them to supplement that? It's adding services, more and more services. So that's
I mean, the services have been a big push in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And unfortunately, their ad service, which I'll put in quotations for right now, is not necessarily benefiting us, but it is benefiting them, and it's a way that they can increase, their revenues and things like that. So I don't know. Karen, what's your initial thoughts other than ads bad, which I'm assuming are your
Yeah,
initial
I mean,
thoughts?
nobody likes ads, but they are a necessary evil. I mean, Apple needs to make money. That's what companies exist for, right? To make money. They're not there to enrich our lives. They're there to make money. And Apple seems to feel that this is the next way for them to make money. And if it means that things cost less for us, then that's great. I mean, I know, like, obviously iMore has a lot of ads and people aren't happy about that, but iMore is free. So people are getting something for free, and the ads are, quote unquote, their payment. But like you said, like Christine said, I mean, we're already paying a premium for Apple products. So does more ads mean that prices are going to go down? Probably not, but maybe that means prices will stay the same for longer when Apple's own costs are increasing. That's what I would hope anyway. Obviously, we will never know because Apple's not going to tell us, but hopefully it keeps costs down somewhat.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll just have to sort of wait and see what it's going to look like. What apps they might be putting these into, how they're going to look, how much are they going to interfere with the use? Because I think that's the thing that can suck about ads the most, especially on websites. Websites or even on YouTube and stuff, is like when the ads are so obnoxious and so in your face that like you have to X out on them or whatever. If they're kind of like around your content, like it sucks. It's not the most appealing, but at least it doesn't affect what you're doing. And you'd have to imagine that like Apple isn't stupid. They know how to make money, and they also know how to make some users happy. Not everyone's ever going to be happy about everything, but I think that they still take their experience that people have on their devices really seriously. Yeah. So I don't imagine there'll be like super obnoxious ads if they go this route. I'm assuming they'll be somehow integrated into the design where you don't really have to interact with them. They'll just kind of be there. And so we'll have to see how it goes. Ultimately, it's like, yes, I would love it if just this wasn't a thing and we didn't have to talk about this at all. But if Apple's going to do it, it'll be interesting to see exactly what that is. And you know what? It'll make it, I think going forward, will make it even, especially in the first few years the first few iOS versions, I guess, that it happens in, when we're reviewing devices and we talk about the experience on the device, that's something that's going to have to be taken into account, I think.
Right, for sure. And listen, it's not like Apple has never done ads. And like I said, like we mentioned earlier, they're already in the Stocks app and Apple TV Plus and some of the other apps. That we're just talking about an expansion of the ad experience. So hopefully it's not too crazy.
Phone Pup in the comments here sort of said what I said, which is I just hope it doesn't get how Samsung is. They have actual outside ads on weather apps and more. Yeah, I agree. I think that's my biggest worry. I like to think that Apple understands that there should be some sort of aesthetic. There's a time and a place for this kind of stuff if they're going to put this kind of stuff on our phones. But you worry, right? Other companies do it because it makes them money. It's how it works. And
I mean, honestly, if Apple is going to put ads in the weather app, I will delete it from my phone and I will exclusively use third-party apps. Because I have third-party apps that I pay for, that paid apps. I paid a one-time fee for. I'm not paying an ongoing subscription, but I paid for an app and there are no ads on it. So I would rather do that. Just pay a one-time fee for an app and be done and not have to see ads on my weather app, because I look in my weather app a lot.
And that's another part of this. Actually, Christine, let me throw this over to you. How many stock Apple apps on your phone do you actually use?
I don't have an exact number, but I used to use more third-party apps in the past, but lately I feel like I've been using more of Apple's native built-in apps. I used to always be looking for the next big notes app or text editor or whatever, but now I'm just kind of I'll just use Apple Notes and just it's just easier because it just syncs on all my devices. So it's like I'm not so big on like third-party apps, except for like maybe task managers and stuff. But like for like notes and weather, I just went back to like just Apple's apps.
Yeah, see, and Karen, I like that you brought this up because I didn't even think about this because I am someone who actually uses mostly native apps, like most of the native apps on the iPhone, like Christine is saying, I use Notes rather than anything else. I've tried third party things. You know, I even just use like the normal Apple Calendar, and I've tried better calendar apps. Don't get me wrong, the calendar app on Apple.
No, the calendar app is no good.
Yeah,
well, that's the one I can't. I use mostly stock Apple apps, and believe me,
Yeah.
I have tried a lot of other apps, like you said, Christine, for notes, for mail. I tried a whole bunch of mail apps. I tried, there are other apps that I've tried, but the one thing that I always come back to, the one thing I absolutely cannot use Apple's for is the calendar app. I cannot stand Apple's calendar app. It is the worst. I can't believe Apple has not improved this. It's terrible. I use Fantastical exclusively.
Yeah, me too.
And it's so much better. And I do, oddly enough, I use the Apple Weather app on my Apple Watch because it seems to refresh more quickly. I mean, the weather
Yeah.
where I live is just like constantly changing, so I need to be really updated. And I use Carrot Weather. I use both Carrot Weather and the stock weather app on my Apple Watch, but on my phone I only use Carrot Weather. Don't ask me why I figured it out this way, but that's just how I worked it out. But for the most part, otherwise I use the stock Apple apps for just pretty much everything.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about that, if those stock apps are going to start having more ads in it, I think like that might be the push I need. Like honestly, the main reason why I don't use a lot of because there are, like we've mentioned, the calendar app. I know there's better calendar apps out there. I've tested out better calendar apps, but I'm just kind of lazy and I just don't want to deal with it and I don't want to set it up. And even though it's not necessarily hard, I just don't want to do it.
There's nothing to set up. You just it just syncs.
I like having as few apps as I can. You know, I still have quite a bit of apps. I like having as few apps as I can on my phone. I don't like my phone to just be pages and pages and pages of app, or I don't like my app library to like look super long. It's just, I don't know. It just makes it feel cluttered and weird to me. But if we are going to get,
you would hate seeing my phone.
I would imagine so. But maybe this will be the push. Maybe I'll start using, because there are like every one of Apple stock apps has like at least like 2 to 3 really good competitors out there, you know, and that can do most of the stuff that they can do. And like the biggest hurdle is, you know, the connectivity, as we've talked about, you know, syncing across devices and stuff. But like even a lot of apps are getting good at that. You know, like Fantastical is a good thing, a good example. That's what I'm trying to say. A good example of this is that it can go across everything, works across platform, and there's like no issues. It all syncs and everything. And a lot of third-party apps, a lot of the good ones, for a lot of those stock apps that Apple puts on, there's ones out there that do that. Now they might cost you a bit, which is, you know, the antithesis or the other thing to this as well. And that's another reason why I don't do a lot of third-party apps, because a lot of the really good ones do have some sort of cost. And a lot of apps are going to subscription models now too, which is, you know, subscription
That's
fatigue.
a whole other can of worms.
We'll have to get into that another day, because that's exactly like Christine said.
I'm curious, users out there, people who are listening, tweet us at iMore. Let us know what you think about this Apple branching more into ads. Let us know if you think it's a good thing, a bad thing. If there's ads in Apple stock apps, are you going to stop using them if you already use them, or do you already use third-party apps and you don't care? I'm interested to know
the question. The real question is, are you willing to pay for a third-party app if it means avoiding those ads? Because I mean, obviously, if you ask people, do you like ads, everyone's going to say no. Right. But the question is, are you willing to pay, and if so, how much?
Yeah.
And are you willing to pay a subscription? That's the other thing. Like a lot of people will, okay, I'll pay $2, $3, $4 to buy an app. That's no problem. But you want me to pay $2, $3, $4, $5 every month? That's a whole other that's a whole other question.
Yeah. And Annie points out here that there's been a conversation about this in the iMore's forum. So check that out too. Let people know what you're thinking. All right. For the last, 20-ish minutes we have here, we did this last week with the iPhone 14. Now, of course, we're expecting the Apple Watch Series 8 to be coming out, as well as a new Apple Watch SE and perhaps an Apple Watch Pro, which we've been hearing a bunch about. So let's kind of dive in to these rumors and just kind of go through them, just so that you can kind of know what we're expecting, the rumors are telling us to expect come next week. And then if none of it happens, then we can all laugh about it. Or if it all happens, we can all
last year.
Yeah.
Like last year when we were totally wrong.
Yeah.
But that's what's fun about rumors. Like we hear the same rumors over and over. So we think, oh, well, it's got to be. But we really don't. We won't know until 5 days from now when Apple announces.
The first thing I'll say is we have very few, almost pretty much nothing on a new Apple Watch SE, except for the fact that they're expected to kind of launch a second generation of that, assuming because the Apple Watch SE is essentially just going to have it's probably going to be fairly similar to the old SE, just likely maybe a processor upgrade and maybe one or two features might trickle down. There hasn't been a lot of talk about that. So we'll get that off.
If you look at the upgrade cycle for the iPhone SE, it's very minimal changes from model to model, from the first to the second to the third. So I think we can expect the same kind of pattern for the Apple Watch SE.
Totally. So obviously, in terms of name, we're expecting Apple Watch Series 8 because that would kind of go with the naming convention that Apple has sort of set up for the Apple Watch. Nothing too surprising there. Of course, the biggest news, though, is that there could be an Apple Watch Pro, which has sort of been rumored to be a rugged, very fitness-focused version of the Apple Watch. And a lot kind of following sort of similarly with the iPhone 14 rumors, the Apple Watch rumors that we're hearing seem that the biggest updates are going to come to that Pro model. And the Series 8 itself will be probably pretty similar to the Series 7 overall. And that's kind of a lot with the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Pro is happening. Whereas a lot of the big changes that we're hearing about are going to come to the iPhone 14 Pro. So big thing is the design changes. So if everyone remembers this last year, there was this big rumor that there was going to be this flatter design and kind of more squared off edges on the Apple Watch that was going to come to the Series 7. And it was all over. There were several rumors. And then, of course, that didn't happen. It did get bigger. It was a bigger display. It went, from 40 and 44 to 41 and 45 millimeters, respectively. However, we are hearing again that this year there might be that redesign that we were sort of expecting, that sort of flat design with the squared off edges. Looks a little more like there's a bit of a mini little current iPhone on your wrist.
The look everybody wants, a mini iPhone on your wrist.
Yeah. But we're hearing once again that this might only be for the Pro edition. It might only be for the Apple Watch Pro, which once again, we keep hearing that the Pro versions of the phones are starting to get more upgrades than or phones and watches now are going to start getting more upgrades. And I'm curious if this trend holds true. Do you guys want there to be a new design? Do you think you want it everywhere? Do you care about an Apple Watch design? Where do you stand?
I'm not falling for that again.
Yeah,
honestly, I don't even care. I did whether it's more flat or whether it maintains the rounded shape. That just doesn't make any difference to me.
Yeah, I mentioned this before. I'd be a little worried that the flat shape might feel even a little weirder on your wrist during certain movements. Perhaps if it's too squared off, it might feel a little bit weirder. But I think at the end of the day, it's not going to be a big difference, likely. Lying flatter against your skin might be good for tracking abilities, which would be nice. If that gives just kind of improved fitness tracking or improved heart rate and things like that. that's a good a good trade-off, I think. Ultimately, though, I'm happy with, like, I have an Apple Watch, the first Apple Watch SE. I also have an Apple Watch Series 7. I'm happy with both of them. I think that they work just fine. So I don't think the design is like a big deal. What's more interesting too is the color and material. So typically, if you remember the Apple Watch Series 7, you could get it in like the aluminum finish, which is like kind of the basic finish. You can get it in a stainless steel finish, which is like a bit more expensive, a bit heavier, a bit more resistant, although it shows fingerprints a lot more. And then you could get it in like a titanium finish, which is kind of like the best of both worlds. It's light, but it's also way more durable. Well, we're hearing that the Apple Watch Series 8 will kind of ditch the titanium finish, because the titanium finish will be reserved for the Apple Watch Pro. And I think this makes a lot of sense, especially if the Apple Watch Pro is going to be what we think it's going to be, which is like this very, fitness focused watch. Because when you're like seriously hiking or seriously running or like doing any sort of extreme sport, you don't want anything on your wrist to get in the way. You don't want it to feel, you don't really want to notice it. And the lighter they can make it, the better. You'll notice that like lots of Garmin's are made out of like titanium as well, and things like that. So anything they can do to make it lighter, I think makes sense. Plus, as we know, the titanium finish was the most expensive. It is the most expensive out of the three. And we'll get to this in a little bit, but we're expecting the Apple Watch Pro to be pretty expensive. So it kind of makes sense just to kind of move that finish over to the Apple Watch Pro, if that's the way that they're trying to go. Have either of you ever used anything other than the aluminum? I've always only ever bought the aluminum finish.
I still have my titanium Series 5.
Do you? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you really like the titanium? Do you feel that it like? Do you
yeah,
like
I felt like the titanium was lighter than like the aluminum watches I had before. So, and it's been pretty durable. I like bump my arm into like walls all the time because I'm just clumsy like that, and it's held up really well. No scratches or chips or anything like that.
So the titanium watch that has the sapphire face,
Yes.
I believe so.
as opposed to glass, because I have the stainless steel, and only in part because I care about stainless steel. It's mostly because I want the sapphire face.
Yes.
Because it's I also, like Christine, am constantly pumping my wrist into doorways and whatnot. And I think if I had glass, I probably would have shattered it by now. But the sapphire holds up really nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in terms of colors, we're hearing the Apple Watch Series 8 will actually drop the green and blue colors that we saw in the Apple Watch Series 7. Right? More colors. Give me more colors. But apparently it's going to add in a silver, which is interesting, because Starlight is kind of silver, although it's not quite the same. But apparently Midnight, Starlight, and Product Red are going to stick around, and then a silver color is going to be added. But the blue and green ones are going to drop away. That's for the aluminum watch, which is
and Starlight is really closer to gold than silver.
Yeah, that's true. So I can see where. But I'm sad the blue and green are going away. Like, I understand.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
I understand they probably didn't sell as well. I get that people want their watch to typically be a little more neutral because you want it to be able to fit in with what you're wearing or what have you, fit in more situations. But I don't know. We always like more color options, don't we?
Yeah, but they're keeping Product Red, but the rumor is it's going to be a different shade of red. So we know how Apple likes to
it's always a
around.
Different shade of red, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even space gray is kind of a bit of a different. It's mostly black and it's darker, so you can't notice it as much. But even space gray over the years has been notoriously not quite as consistent. As for the size, we're hearing that the Apple Watch Series 8 is going to be the same 41 millimeter and 45 millimeter, which is kind of what the Apple Watch Series 7 is. There's no real specific things about the Apple Watch SE, but my guess is it's going to be the 40 and the 44 that we're already used to seeing, because I don't think it's going to get the upgrade. That would be my inclination, but we don't really have any solid rumors about that. The biggest one, once again, for the Apple Watch Pro, which is it'll be 47 millimeter case. So very slightly bigger, and that the display will be 0.09 inches bigger than like the normal 45 millimeter Apple Watch display.
Well, it would be so it was so 1.99 inches converts to 50.4 roughly millimeters.
Right, but the display size and the case size can be like slightly different things. But
right,
yeah, but we're hearing it's a 47 millimeter case, so there is a bit of a discrepancy between what's been rumored for the display and what's been rumored for the case if you do a straight conversion. But the case size is also measured differently than a display size, and I'm not entirely sure how that works. Like I think case sizes are actually measured like vertically or horizontally. I can't remember, whereas displays are usually measured diagonally. So I think it might just be in the way that the measurements are, but it also could be that there's two competing rumors right now and we don't exactly know which one's going to kind of prove to be
It sounds
true.
bigger though, bigger than all the previous models.
Which, like, do either of you have a 45? Do you have like one
No.
of the bigger ones? Right.
No,
Karen, you've talked about having smaller wrists.
Yeah, that would cover my whole entire wrist. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're watching this is the smaller watch, and it's already like huge on my wrist.
Yeah, I have a 45. My Apple Watch Series 7 is a 45 millimeter, and it feels like a good size. I don't know if I need it to be bigger. Granted, it's not going to be much bigger if there is a bigger one, but I can't imagine. I liked the upgrade. I liked the upgrade to the 45 over like the 44, but I don't think it really needs to be much bigger than that. Like, or we're actually literally going to have a little iPhone on our wrists, which I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone's ready for that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see smaller bezels, which would make for a larger face, but I can't have a larger case on my wrist.
Yeah. We're hearing that the processor will get a slight upgrade. It'll be the S8 chip, which would iterate on the S7 chip. Nothing too surprising there. Interesting one, and one that a lot of people have been speculating the far out part of the invitation for the Apple event means is that potentially the Apple Watch Pro might have satellite communication, which is something that we've also heard rumors about the iPhone 14 Pro potentially getting satellite communication as well. I think that'd be interesting. I think especially once again for that Pro Apple Watch model, the one that's going to be focused on the people who are running through the mountains, so to speak. They're going to want something if it can connect. Your regular LTE connection or 5G or whatever is probably not going to work up there, but a satellite might. So I think that's a good reason for it to stay on the Pro model and not necessarily have to come down the lineup at all. Kind of going through a couple more things real quickly. We'll get to the price. Let's talk about this. So, of course, we don't know what the price is going to be, and inflation is hitting the market, so maybe prices will go up, whatever. We're kind of still sort of expecting that the Apple Watch Series 8 will likely stick around what it has, so probably starting around that $399 mark. It's the Apple Watch Pro that's kind of throwing the wrench into things because we know it's going to, it's going to be a bit more rugged. It's going to be meant to go longer or go faster, or go to more places than the Apple Watch kind of can already. But there's been rumors that it might be around like $1,000, which seems crazy to me. But I guess if you take the Apple Watch, Series 7 right now and you put a titanium finish on it, how much is that actually as a baseline? That's already over $1,000 right there, actually. So perhaps it's literally just $1,000 because they're just moving over that finish that we're used to seeing, and that's the reason why. Because they already have like $1,000 Apple Watch. It just I think a lot of people don't buy the titanium finish compared to people who buy the aluminum or the stainless steel finish. But that's a pretty expensive Apple Watch, all to be said, especially if there isn't a ton of improvements and it's just kind of like a Series 8 in titanium. Because in terms of features, we've been hearing, things like car crash detection could be a thing. We've been hearing that sleep apnea tracking could maybe be a thing. A temperature sensor, which we've heard about, that could also be just on the Series 8 as well as the Apple Watch Pro. But we haven't heard a ton of crazy rumors kind of surrounding if there's going to be like giant new features. So my question for you to finish off the show today, my question for both of you is, what could make you, if you were going to drop $1,000 on an Apple Watch, what could make you spend that kind of money? Christine, I'll hand it off to you first.
I would really want like blood glucose monitoring on the Apple Watch.
Yeah.
So if the Apple Watch Pro like had that, then yeah, I'm probably gonna get it.
Yeah, and I think that's one that we've been hearing for a while that Apple's kind of been circling. We haven't heard anything specific about it coming out this time around, but we know that Apple has been like trying to get it to work. Seems like rumors have suggested that they've been testing it, or at least like theorized they can get it done. Don't know. We had heard that maybe it was going to show up on the 7, and then obviously a lot of the 7 rumors ended up not being super accurate. I agree. I think that'll be a big one, and not only would that be a big one for just anyone. I think that'll be that's the one I'm like curious about with my mom too. Like my mom has diabetes, and pricking your finger all the time and all sorts of different things that go along with that can be really annoying. So if she can strap something on her wrist and just kind of get a reading and have that help her out, I think that would be a huge boon to the diabetic community. I really do. How about you, Karen? What would make you shell out $1,000?
I'd be hard pressed to shell out $1,000 for an Apple Watch, but I have to say, if they do come up with that satellite communication, it would be very tempting for me to buy it for my kids, because several of them love to hike and camp in remote places. Like actually being out of cell phone range is part of the appeal for them. So I would love to be able to have that peace of mind of knowing that if there were some kind of emergency, that they would be able to access satellite communication.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call about what far out might mean. Like a lot of people have been speculating it might mean some sort of satellite communication for either the phone, the watch, or both. And I think that's a good speculation, especially with the AR event kind of taking you into the stars and sort of the star motif that they have. So I think that's a good guess. I know we dig into the name of the event a lot, and sometimes it doesn't seem to mean anything, but I think that's a good guess for what it could be. If I was going to drop $1,000 on an Apple Watch, I think it's a non-starter for me if it still has the same battery life as the current Apple Watch. Like if you look at the competition that we think Apple is going to be targeting with this Apple Watch Pro, which is a more fitness focused and like kind of like extreme sport loving type of person. Like if you look at Garmin's and Polars and things like that, their batteries last like days, like a week, maybe even, before you would have to recharge it. And like that's the starting point for me, because I'm fine with like my regular Apple Watch. I have my charging routine. I charge it, for a few hours in the morning, so I can use it for sleep tracking at night. I charge it kind of when I first get up, and I'm not really doing much. I'm usually just sitting at my desk for those hours anyway, so I don't need it to track anything major. I'm fine with that. But if you're talking about like going out there and hiking and things like that, like people aren't going to want a watch that dies in a day or a day and a half. Like it's going to need to last multiple days, and like the longer they can push it, the better. And other companies do it. Like we've seen other companies do it, so it shouldn't be impossible for Apple to figure it out. So I've always wanted just regular battery improvements on the regular model, but for me, there's no way in heck that I would spend any sort of anywhere close to that amount of money without having like a significant battery life update. It would need, like Phone Pup is saying in the comments here, it would at least a 2-day battery. I would say it would need
5 at least.
I would say like it should be pushing 5 or maybe even pushing a week. Like 4 would be like the bare minimum in my mind.
Yeah,
like
so there are a lot of fitness trackers out there that have 5 to 7 day battery life.
Yeah, exactly. That's our show for today, folks. Thank you to everyone who listened live, commented with us. We appreciate you so much. We always record live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time or 8 a.m. Pacific time. So join us along on YouTube if you want. if you want to do that. Obviously, anyone who's listening after the fact in your podcatcher of choice, thank you so much. So also, we have worked out our technical difficulties, so the podcast will be going up on time. So don't worry about that anymore. We figured that out. Big thank you to Christine for coming on. Thanks for coming on, Christine, and talking all about
Thank you.
The event. And yeah, tweet at us at iMore if you want to give us your last bit of predictions. If you have any predictions about what the Apple event's going to be, obviously come back next week because we're going to have so much to talk about because all the new products will have been revealed. We'll have so many things to talk about, dive into, learn about together. So please come back for that. And thank you to Jim Metzendorf, our audio editor, who always makes us sound so good. So until next time, I hope you have a far out weekend. Bye.
Oh, like what you did there.
Bye. Bye, guys.